Welcome. Deborah Leanne here, and it's time for a little slice of um, what does authentic life look like? And this week is around the topic of passion, authentic passion. There's this deep feeling that when we tap into it, it is a life force that can feed us, that can drive us to do crazy things, that can also shine out from us like a beacon that allows others to see and support, allows the universe to send the right people, the right circumstances, and the support systems to drive this passion forward. When we deeply feel about something, when we are so turned on by the topic that we could talk about it for long periods of time, that we could it's what entrepreneurs get the bug of starting something new, and or artists will stay up all night long writing a song or perfecting their painting or sculpture. It's this out of time, almost out of body kind of experience. And our heart is very engaged. I like to believe, as we've talked a lot about passion around in sexual or romantic relationships, and that's true. And that involves another. Yet this is a passion that is just uniquely ours. And I think it's tied into what we're wired to do here, what our unique contribution is to the world. And it's probably tied to what our gifts are and our talents. So let's just play a little bit around this topic of passion. Where is it? How do we know what it is? And how do we know once we find it, how can we fuel it and keep it alive? Or do what I have done sometimes by getting overly busy and in my head and trying to make other avenues be more important. I try to put things on the back burner. And the funny thing about doing that, it's like having a 2-year-old that you're saying, just a minute, honey, we'll do that in a minute. Yep, yep. Let mommy just do this for a minute. And that temper tantrum that comes, that the child can only wait so long. The impatience is going to take over. And that's how passions can show up in our lives. Inopportune outbursts that we might get fired from a job because it's time for us to do what we're really here to do, or an illness that will force us to be in bed and write that book finally, or why do we have to wait until something huge happens to knock us on the side of the head, sometimes literally, so that we can finally pursue our passion? And I do this where I get into my head about what I need to do to make certain income streams, or what I believe is what is the right next thing for me to do. I don't know why I think it's my decision, because a lot of times our passion, or sometimes some people call it the soul of our great work or of our business, it has its own agenda. And when we try to squash it, put it away for a later time, it's only going to be so patient. And the other thing around it is there's magic. There's magic in it. Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this in her book, Big Magic, around these brilliant inspirational ideas that we get. And if we don't act on it, if we don't write the book right then and there, it will leave us. And it'll move on to someone who is ready to take action. And that's why over and over again we keep hearing it's not just about sitting and dreaming and calling forth our visions to come true, our dreams to come true. There needs to be action around them daily, if possible. So how can you, tap into what is it that is your passion? I'll tell you a story. It's around mine. And some years ago, I was really lucky to work with children on the Native American reservation. And some of the work was done in and off reservation, but with a lot of Navajo children. And I was working with some other women that had been doing this for years and just was supporting them with getting the organization into a 501c3 nonprofit and creating a way to fund the organization and the services that didn't have to be out of every volunteer's pocket. And we were, it was the beginning of doing things for love. I was so in love with this whole process and how we worked it and the people involved, and most especially the children that were on the receiving end. They were such amazing beings. So grateful, so fun and enjoyable to be around, that we would work long, long hours. I mean, I would totally forget the time and energy that went into supporting this organization for our 2 weeks that we were out there every summer. What happened was I went through a divorce and I couldn't continue working on that high level of energy and both financial and time and my technical background. None of that was available because I had to start making money for myself. I had to go out and get an income that would feed me, keep my household moving, and take care of my kids. And it was I was lucky to find one of the organizations I did a contract with served teenagers. And so it was still, even though I was in a roundabout fashion, I was the HR person, I got a chance to be around an organization that really did things well. They had a very high reputation. They were really good at what they did. They actually created a model that was then rolled out and replicated around the country. And while I was there doing HR things, I noticed the call to do and be around the teens. And I was approached and said, you've got the experience on what it means to be a program facilitator. Would you like to run one of the little after school programs? So here I am once a week making $12 an hour for my 2 or 3 hours a week to do this, to work with the young people. And I so loved it. It fed me through all of the other hours spent every week doing the recruiting and the metrics and the performance pieces, all of the moving parts that were part of the quality standards I was helping them set up for their certification. So what I'm trying to say is that this has been something that's been following me since I was a teenager and worked with children. It has been on the sidelines. I've been working very much around women and leadership and building my business. And it came up again last week when I was invited to go see an update of what they're doing in St. Louis in this collaborative, collective impact program amidst a number of agencies and funders and community service programs and for-profit organizations and government entities. And it was, this collective impact was around getting more of our teens to graduate from high school and then to go on and successfully graduate college. And being around that energy in that room as they gave us the update, yes, it was nice to hear from the program officials and the presidents of the universities that were being honored, but to hear the young people speak on their experiences of how they were treated at these universities. They were the first in their families to go to university. They were the first to break that chain of getting into college and completing college in some of the cases in 4 years. And I felt it. It relit an old passion. And believe me, I'm multi-passionate. I have all kinds of things that I love. But this reminded me of how important it is, this work. And then yesterday I was at a community program initiative rollout that's about smart community, about bringing together technology and entrepreneurship and education and IT and the arts and helping us heal the divisive community that we live in here in St. Louis. And it was fascinating to hear the number of people who were invited from different aspects and different parts of the community to be a part of the brainstorming. And it got my mind just reeling that this is my thing. I love community building. I love pulling together different resources and talent and to meet community needs and to heal anything we can in anything that's around the divisiveness of sexism, racism, classism that we are suffering with in not just our community, but across the country and around the world. I was blown away. It allowed me to be so excited and turned on that I felt it. I had this, I felt my magnetic energy just flowing from me, and it was natural and it felt so, so juicy. And I came home and I had a meeting with my web designer who's been waiting for web copy for me to complete this new consulting website. And I finally got it. I got the juice that I want to come through in the writing for those web pages. When I talk about consulting for this specific kind of leadership that works between healing, the lack of inclusiveness in our community, the lack of consciousness and or creativity that we so need. And we tend to squelch because it's different. It's not the way things have been done. And how fun to be at the cutting edge of innovation and arts and technology and entrepreneurship and young and old people and Black and white people and every other color in between coming together to work on something that no one entity owns. It's community owned. It lit me up. And so I came home and started writing it, and I made such headway, and I was so delighted. And then what happened is I stopped for the evening. I had a friend come over. We had planned dinner, but I was kind of itching to get back at it. But I stopped and I focused on that. And then I realized this is what I do. I don't know how to be both, to be passionate about my work and be passionate in my relationships. And if I find passion in one thing and it's feeding me and drawing me and calling me and I want to focus all my time over there, that's how I turn into a workaholic. And I neglect the parts of me, the self-care, and the passion that's needed in my relationships. It was evident. So I found it in one area, and then I lost it in another. And so what I've committed to today is how can I honor my self-care, my relationships, and my work, the business that I'm here to do, in a way where I get juiced in all directions. And it's going to take some juggling from me. Maybe I find a way that the calling to do the work that I want to do has a time limit on it that literally needs to be turned off so that I can focus on my love relationships. A lot of my friends and family don't want to hear me talk about work all the time. And now that that's been explained to me, I'm wondering, how can I honor all of these different parts of me, all these different facets of me? And I'm curious how others do it. When you've got something, and I know this is what happens with most entrepreneurs, they focus and they spend 20 out of 24 hours a day working on something, meanwhile missing their children growing up, or missing their opportunities to hang out with friends, or neglecting their health, their own well-being, or their most important love partnership. Their business gets all their focus, all that light and attention. The other thing I wanted to just talk about is I've had this realization for myself, and I'm going to be playing with it to see how can I honor my authentic passion for my work and allow the multi-passionate parts of me to all have a say. That, for so many hours every week, maybe I can focus completely on my friends, completely on my lover, completely on my daughters, or in my exercise and wellness routine. How can I make it all work? I don't want to be limited. Yet, knowing what feeds me and what fuels my passion, I need to make a deal with it, I think, that I will fuel you this many hours every day. And after that, I really am going to shift my attention, but I'll be back. I'll be back. And knowing this additional dimension of why social impact is so important, why conscious and creative leadership are the people that I want to work with and serve, and why it's so important to get more women into places of authority and responsibility and higher level leadership. They all have a major focus in my heart, and that is about, creating change, healing communities. And once I have that as my basis, it's much easier to explain who I am and what I do. And knowing that I also want to create change by being a model of what it means to be a solopreneur, or a business partner, if that were to come to play. And also be successful in relationship and be a model of authentic life in terms of taking the time to schedule a massage, which I really have been thinking about and haven't done this week or last week or the week before or the week before. And what does that look like? How can I be so intentional every day using my beautiful desire map planner to really plot out how I want this day to go, who I want to connect with, where's the best use of my time for me to shine my light. But first and foremost, I want to feed my passion. I want to take the actions that will allow it to feel like I'm moving forward in creating this. And that means being still every morning, even if it's just for a minute or two. That's all I had this morning. And it was still long enough to look out, connect with nature, pull in the energy of Mother Earth, the sky, the sun, even though it wasn't visible, the moon and the stars, pulling that energy in and allowing it to have its own light and space within me, then allowing me to be part of it all. So yes, I have this body and I know it's part of this human existence, But sometimes I just need to remember that I am a moving and growing and living cell in the big system of all of life. And when I am doing my job and lighting up what feeds me in a way that just creates such joy and desire and a burning within me, that fire that's in me can be my way of healing, my way of being one of those healthy cells in an organism that has a lot of unhealthy cells. I think that's what our purpose is whenever we find what brings us joy and feed that by taking small actions every day to include tapping into that desire, that passion, that joy. That is what we're here to do. That is our purpose. So with that, I would love to hear from you. What is it that feeds you, that allows you to feel so on purpose and alive, knowing that you are doing what is your God-given gifts and talents, that you're doing what you are here to do with those talents, with those innate traits and gifts and brilliant facets of you. And what do you do to feed it, to make sure that it stays alive? Just like we feed our physical body, our spiritual body, our intellectual and emotional selves. We feed ourselves on so many different levels already. And maybe it's time to add a fifth one, feeding our passion and our joy and our desire, feeding that light that needs to stay nice and bright within us and connecting us to all parts of ourselves. Because it's that light that is like the glue. It's the hub of the 7 directions, right? The mind, heart, body, soul, above, below, and within. It's that within, that fire, that light of you. So on that note, I am going to get ready to finalize some stuff here with work things. And I'm going off to do another thing that feeds my passion, feeds my desire, feeds my joy. And that is to go and do my volunteer work with Fair Shares. I love being around healthy people and people that invest in healthy food for their families and themselves. And it's a volunteer thing that is, it brings me so much joy to be there. Maybe it's the potential of having a beer tasting with the Schlafly brewmaster guy, but it is just it's a great group of people. It's a wonderful hour and a half that I give every week on Wednesdays. So with that in mind, I want to just let you know that you guys are also, whoever's listening, you are part of my passion. This is part of what lights me up. And it's funny because I never know who's going to listen, how many people are going to listen, who's going to download it or whatever. And I don't even look at the numbers very often. But what is really, really fun is when somebody stops me and says, "Oh my gosh, your podcast last week was exactly what I needed to hear." Or, "I just listened to this one from a month or so ago and it was the perfect time for me to listen to it." Or whatever. It's nice to know that, I enjoy doing these for me, for the purely selfish reason of doing them for me. And it's amazing when I get the gift returned back to me that I'm actually connecting with you on some level. So if you feel like letting me know, that would be awesome. And if not, I just want you to know that I appreciate you. So stay true to your passion, your joy, your desire. Find it, feed it, and if you lose it, if you forget it, let it find you again, because it will, as soon as you slow down. Take excellent care. Shine, shine, shine. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.